For just about every part of your application, there's a service available as a software subscription that you can use to replace that. Whether you're talking about email or monitoring or data analytics, most of them are just as simple as entering in your credit card number to sign up for their service, installing their library, and away you go. It seems like a good deal, and it's that but that we're going to talk about today. Hey, I'm Will Button from DevOps for Developers, where I teach you how to build, scale, and grow your application using DevOps principles, even if you don't have a DevOps team. What it does is it allows you to build your own DevOps skills, and then once you have those DevOps skills, you can go get that DevOps money. So there are tons of SaaS applications out there these days. You can use Snowflake for data analytics, Datadog for monitoring, New Relic for application monitoring, MailChimp or ConvertKit for email workflows, and the list just goes on and on. So are these always a good deal? On the surface, it seems like, seems like a pretty good deal. You sign up for their service and you just start using it and you don't have to write all of that code yourself. Well, there's a couple things to think through. And there's a couple times whenever it is a good deal and it's not a good deal, and I'm going to teach you how to navigate those today. So you've probably already got a preference as to whether or not you want to use these SaaS applications or not. And really that preference comes down to just kind of your personality. Are you a builder or a buyer? And by a builder, I mean like someone who just likes to build stuff. Like even if there's 1,000 different applications out there already doing the same thing, if it's something that interests you, you want to build your own version of it. I'm that way. And you see these traits a lot in guys or girls who build cars or motorcycles. I've done both of those. So I totally get the build gene. If you can build it, you want to build it. A buyer, on the other hand, is someone who recognizes the value of what's out there and says, well, I can just use that. And you can best sum this up by asking, why on earth would you want to spend $75,000 or $80,000 building a custom 1970 convertible Cadillac lowrider when for the same amount of money, you could just go buy a Tesla? If you're a builder, you totally get that. If you're a buyer, your thumb's probably hovering over the thumbs down button right now thinking, this dude better get his shit together or I'm clicking it. So let me get it together right now and help you out with it. In our personal lives, we can make that decision just based on what we like, whether we're a builder or a buyer. But in the business world, we've got to consider other factors beyond our preferences. And that's kind of where the ops and DevOps comes from. Because once you go into that ops land, it comes down to learning what the value for the business is and making operational decisions for the business based on money. I'll set this up by telling you about one client that I've had. And I've actually encountered this multiple times, but there was this one in particular who was spending $30,000 a month on their AWS infrastructure. That covered their entire business. That was 100% of their application in AWS. And they were spending $15,000 a month on Snowflake for data analytics. So half as much as what they were spending on their infrastructure, they were spending on data analytics. So their product was they had a subscription service for $10 a month. And one way to look at this is if you're spending $15,000 a month on data analytics and you're bringing in customers at $10 a month subscription service, that if your data analytics is used to bring in customers, it needs to be bringing in or preventing the turnout of 1,500 customers per month, right? Because 1,500 times 10 equals the 15,000 that they're spending on it. So that's one way to look at it. It has to generate 1,500 new customers or prevent 1,500 lost customers each month. Another way to look at it is from a personnel standpoint. For that $15,000 a month, could you afford to build an equivalent or better product by spending that money on additional engineers for your team? And so that's kind of the overarching principle when evaluating these SaaS products. Are you getting good value for your money? Now, if you're a smaller company, with 5 or 10 engineers or whatever, and you're using something like Snowflake, we'll just stick with that example, it probably is a good value for your money. because with only a few engineers, you probably don't have the resources to build something that has all the capabilities that Snowflake does without hiring additional engineers that would potentially cost you more than what it would cost to just use the Snowflake service. For larger companies, though, you may already have the staff on hand to build that type of service. And in that case, it may make sense for you to build it yourself and build it in-house and dedicate a team to it. But you also have to consider the opportunity cost of that. Like if you take your existing staff and have them start building on this, what are they now not able to work on as a result of that? And is that thing they're not working on more valuable than what you would have gained or realized from replacing a service like Snowflake? And the final consideration when it comes to cost is, what do your overall financial metrics look like? It may be that you just have a really healthy profit margin and your staff is well utilized, and so regardless of the size, it may just come down to a decision of like, look, we're making tons of money as it is. We've got plenty of stuff to do. It's not worth the time and effort to go and mess with that $15,000 a month, right? It just may not be worth the effort. So that's the financial side of the situation for using a SaaS. You can make a financial decision on whether or not it's a good value of your money to use that third-party service or not. The other side of it comes from a data perspective. So with almost all of these providers, you're sending them some of your data and they're doing work on it. So what happens to your data when they get it? You've got to really redo the contracts, and I know those contracts are huge and they're really hard to understand. So if you've got an attorney on your staff, have them look at it and make sure that they sign off on it, because ultimately you're responsible to your customers for whatever this third party lets happen to your data. For example, are they taking your data and they're combining it with their other customers' data to come up with new data products that they can sell to someone else? You see this a lot in the data analytics space. I'm also aware of one scenario where a company lets you push your data to them and then they host it for you, and then they take it, combine it with other customers' data and create an overall larger analytics package and then try to sell that back to you. So if we just look at that from a high level, they're taking your data and then selling it back to you. But it's all legal because it's written out in their terms and conditions when you sign up for their service. And the last part of the data standpoint is from a security perspective, because every single one of these providers has it written into their contract that they are not to be held responsible if they get hacked, which we should say when they get hacked. They're not responsible to your customers. You are. So now you've got data from your customers and their customers have trusted it with you. You've pushed it to a third-party provider. They get hacked. That data gets maliciously used against your users, and there's no legal recourse against that third-party SaaS provider, either by you or by your customers, because of the way the contract's written. So you really have to look at what data you're sending to those providers and carefully screen that out, or have it written into the contract that there is some sort of recourse or legally binding means of resolving anything that comes up as a result of that. So that part gets way beyond the scope of either dev or ops and DevOps, but it's something that I want you to know about because it's something that you're going to have to deal with whenever you go to your boss or your company and you recommend using this third-party provider. These are the considerations that you need to have in mind. These are the facts that you need to present them with so that as a team you can make the right decision for your company. And then when fallout does happen, you've been expecting it and you've got a plan for how you deal with it. So let's recap that. From my opinion, those third-party providers, even though I love building stuff, most of the time are a good use of my money. And we can prove that out by looking at either the additional revenue that using those third-party providers will bring into my company. We can look at the cost savings that that third-party provider provides my company, either through not losing new subscribers or new customers or returning customers, and through reduced expenses because I don't need as many engineers on my team. And so then being able to calculate that it is a good value and it is a good use of my money. We just have to address the security concerns of it and make sure that we're carefully screening what data we send to them, what their retention policy is, what their usage policy for that data is, and any recourse that we have available, either directly us to that third-party provider or our customers to that third-party provider when something unfortunate happens through a data breach. So there you go. More than you probably ever wanted to know about SaaS applications and third-party providers. If you liked it, hit the like button below. Be sure and subscribe so that you can be notified whenever I release additional videos. If you didn't like it, seriously, what the hell are you still doing here? Click your down like button and just go away. And I'll see the rest of you next time.